Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome back to our event. Now we're going to have a presentation by Marcela Cintra. She's going to be talking about ICELT. Marcela Cintra is a manager at Cultura Inglesa São Paulo. She has taught English for over 20 years. She has been involved in teacher training, in development programs, and she has presented at ABCI, LABCI, Braz-TESOL and IATEFL conferences. She's a CELTA, ICELT and DELTA tutor, and she's currently taking development programs, and she has presented at ABCI, LABCI, Braz-TESOL and IATEFL conferences. And she has currently taken an MA course in TESOL. So now, please, let's welcome Marcela.
Hi, Marcela. Over to you.
I can't hear Marcela.
I think your mic is muted.
Can you hear me?
Marcela. Over to you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Good. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you.
I can't hear Marcela.
I think your mic is muted.
Can you hear me?
Marcela. Over to you.
Yes.
There's an echo.
Good.
Maybe you have the video showing, Marcela.
I can't hear Marcela.
I think your mic is muted.
Yes.
Okay, can you all hear me okay now? Because I can hear many voices.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so thank you all very much in the BrELT team for inviting me. And I'm going to be talking about ICELT for the next few minutes, and I'm going to share the presentation with you right now. Yes. So just for us to get started and to know what the presentation will be about, the agenda, I mean, I'm sure you've all looked at the abstract and everything, but we're going to look into the general features of the course, the ICELT course, what the coursework is all about, the advantages of taking ICELT, since we've been doing this teacher development day based on what courses to take or what paths to take, right? The profile of the ICELT, so that we understand who it is for and who it is not for, perhaps, what assessment is like in the course, and very, very few details on ICELT versus other courses, other teacher awards or teacher courses, right? And then we're going to open up for questions, right? Perhaps for the reference. So some of the features of the ICELT course, it stands for In-Service Certificate in English Language Teaching, which is already the first difference in between the ICELT and the CELTA. Ricardo was talking about a few minutes ago, right? It's in service, and that makes all the difference, right? Second thing is you can take it as a modular course, very similar to the DELTA in that sense, or the full ICELT at once. And we're going to look at the differences in a few minutes, okay? Then the components of the course, there are three components, one of them language for the teacher, and then the other one teaching itself, and the last one methodology. Three components, although there are only two possible modules, okay? Module 1 is language for teachers, and module 2, if you decide to take it as a modular course, module 2 is teaching and methodology. Although there are two modules, there are three different components, which will mean that will impact assessment later on, because there are three different assessment moments, right? Not moments, but components. Then the three components, as I said, We're going to look at each of them and their differences, or what each of them entails, okay? First of all, language for teachers. If you choose to take it as a modular course, this is your module 1. You only need 100 hours experience to enroll for a language for teachers ICELT course. And you will have 4 or 6 assignments, 4 if you take it as part of the full ICELT course, 6 if you take it as a standalone module, okay? All the assignments, the written ones, are between 750 and 1,000 words. But there will be, as you can see from the table, the first one, an oral presentation. The oral presentation takes 10 minutes. It's based on reading of a text of an area of interest, and then you move on to present it to your colleagues and the relevance of the literature to the practice or your context, okay? The 4 written tasks, as I said, between 750 and 1,000 words. Remember that later on, because there will be other assignments which are slightly longer, okay? And a final assessment for lesson, as a lesson observation, and then reflection and discussion. If you see the stars on tasks 5 and 6, those are the tasks that you only do if you are taking language for teachers as a standalone module in the ICELT course, okay? If you're doing the full ICELT, you only do tasks 1 to 4, 3 written tasks and 1 oral presentation. The reason for that is that you will be doing teaching as part of your full ICELT. Just going back a little, I did the language for teachers alone a long while ago, and I had to do all of them. And that's why, because you would be asking, oh, but teaching is part of teaching, right, if it's in service. But if you're doing only language for teachers and then a while later the teaching and methodology module, you would not be teaching in the first module, except for task 6, okay? Then you have the teaching component. It's a component, even though it's always done with the next component, which is methodology. And as a full ICELT, you would be doing it with language as well. For the teaching, you have 4 different assessed lessons. I mean, it's usually 4 lessons. There is some flexibility to the ICELT, and it could be more than that, not less than 4 lessons, okay? Not fewer than 4 lessons, with different language or skills focus, a different language or skills focus for each of the lessons. You cannot teach 2 reading lessons, for example, or 2 grammar lessons, or 4 grammar lessons for that matter. That would mean you're teaching only 1 skill or language system, right? It's more comprehensive than that. Even though you can choose to do the ICELT as a specific course for your context. But again, we're going to recap this later on, okay? So 4 different ones, 4 different lessons. For each lesson, you need a lesson plan, a full lesson plan, including a rationale for the needs of the learners and relating those to your aims, why you chose that lesson or that aim, your objectives, and analyzing or anticipating the problems and analyzing those, providing some solutions, suggested solutions for the problems that can come up. For the teaching and methodology course and the full ICELT, you can only take the course if you complete 500 hours of teaching when you finish the course. It means you can start with fewer hours, but when you finish the course, you must have had 500 hours teaching. That means you would be able you would have some sort of background to analyze and to provide solutions. You have a repertoire for that, okay? Also, in your 4 lessons, the whole package, you would include a post-lesson evaluation when you finish teaching, assessing, obviously, how successful your lesson was, the parts that weren't that successful, what you could have done differently. For the methodology component, still part of your module 2 with teaching, there will be, we are assuming everyone will be doing the ICELT, right? There will be 4 written assignments, each of them between 1,000 and 1,500 words. As I said, it's slightly or double the size of the assignments in module 1 or component 1 if you're taking the full ICELT for the language for teachers. The reason for that being you are a more experienced teacher when you're doing the methodology component, and then you would be able to delve into teaching a bit more and have more background reading as well. The 4 written assignments are, and they could be done in a different order, not necessarily in that order, evaluation of your own teaching, meaning that you're going to teach a lesson, evaluate, and this is not necessarily one of the observed lessons, okay? Design and implement, the design and implementation of tasks, you're going to evaluate how it went, classroom management, the language of the teacher or the learners, right? And the achievement of learning objectives. Those are the areas to focus on when evaluating your lesson. Not necessarily, again, the 4 of them, but it could be. The second assignment you would write, you are going to write, right, is planning beyond the lesson. So you're going to teach and evaluate another lesson, and which is a language focused on, and plan for the next lessons, what to do with the outcomes of that one. So in that case, you would be observing how learners progress during the lessons, the follow-up work they want to do or they need to do, and what you would do in the next couple, not couple, but 3-4 lessons, next lessons, how you would tackle all those needs, okay? And also in that assignment, you're going to select materials to use to help you achieve those aims with your learners. The third assignment in this component is evaluating and supplementing material. You're going to analyze course material that you could include in your lesson, use the material in a lesson, and evaluate its effectiveness. Again, it's not necessarily one of your assessed lessons, but it could be. And then you use those materials, evaluate, and assess how effective your choices were. Finally, you're going to discuss learners and learning. Again, analyzing a lesson, and that's why it's called methodology. It's very practical. Analyze a lesson you taught and evaluate the differences in learners' responses and consider ways when teaching and learning can be improved, or learning through teaching, right? Again, 1,000 to 1,500 words, because you're expected to read and use literature to actually justify your choices, or actually it could be to contrast what you've done and what other people have tried or written about, right? Okay, oops. Good. Now, the topics that are going to permeate the whole course, in one more evidently in some of the tasks, less in others, but you're going to cover, that's the core syllabus, right? It would be language knowledge and awareness. That clearly links more to Module 1, but it permeates Module 2 or the full ICELT in teaching and methodology, as you will be assessed in your lessons as well. You will be assessed in terms of language or classroom language use, right? And how you teach language as well. Second one, the background to teaching and learning, meaning you've been doing your reading, studying. It's very practical, but includes research, right? The ICELT course. Then the use of resources and materials, how resourceful you are or creative in looking for or designing materials for learning purposes. I'm just outlining the brief description, okay, because there is a more detailed thing to that. Then the fourth topic, planning and management of teaching and learning. So clearly this goes with the teaching component, and also some of the assignments in the methodology component, how you plan, how you manage the classroom environment, what you do to enrich the learning experience, right? Then evaluation, monitoring and assessment, evaluating the task effectiveness or the whole learning process, assessment of learning, the learner's progress, and monitoring that progress as well. Then, just like in the CELTA, as Ricardo was describing, there'll be a component to observe professional development, how much progress you're doing in your assignments or your lessons. When we look at assessment, you will see that you cannot fail the last lesson in the course, right? Because this will mean you developed, and your attitude or how much you're taking feedback in and incorporating that in future lessons. And finally, language for teachers, language for the classroom, which is different from number 1. I'm not quite sure who mentioned that earlier. I think it was Edu in his TKT talk. Language for teachers, as in what you need to be able to teach the language, but the language knowledge and awareness will help you analyze the language in a more thorough way, and obviously be more resourceful in using the language and providing learners with solutions for their learning as well, okay? Right, that's all for the features, the overview of the features, and I talk too much. Some of the advantages of taking the ICELT course are developing an awareness of the language, awareness of what there is in the world for us to read, how much there is to improve, and an awareness of your own teaching, how far you've come and how far you still have to go, because it's an ongoing process, right? We are always developing. Also, knowledge about teaching, about what we do. Sometimes, especially in Brazil, we start teaching with very little knowledge of why we do things, and the course may help you with the suggested reading or the tasks you have to do and the analysis you have to go through. It may help you understand that the reasons why we do certain things, or the reasons or how people learn, what they should do, and that sort of knowledge, okay? The course will enrich your experience and your understanding of your own teaching and learning overall, with the background knowledge you will acquire, the awareness you will acquire, and the teaching you will have to do, the feedback you will take in, all the comments you will listen, the input sessions you will have, and all the discussions with the tutors. It is an international qualification. It is recognized worldwide, along with other Cambridge teaching qualifications, okay? The program can be adapted to the teaching context. What do I mean by that? The ICELT course, although there is a list of topics and there is a list of or a minimum of tasks you have to do, it could be an ICELT specific for young learner teachers. It could be an ICELT for managers who need to understand more about teaching and their own background of teaching. It could be, I don't know, you can adapt it to various contexts, teaching contexts. You can be creative. All you have to do, obviously, is get approval of your program, of the program the center developed for the group of teachers that will be taking the course. So there is some sort of flexibility, which means it's going to be more related to your own teaching, giving you immediate application of what you learn in the course. What you cannot adapt are the contact hours, okay? I mean, there is a core minimum of contact hours to the course that will depend on the way the program is developed, fully face-to-face or face-to-face with support online, okay? The overall number of contact hours for the full ICELT is 120 contact hours, including lessons, feedback, input sessions. For the face-to-face plus distance learning support, the minimum face-to-face would be 50 contact hours plus the other 70 hours on distance mode. But that would mean you can adapt to your reality and adapt the mode you're doing the course as well. It cannot be done fully online, okay? Then, what is the profile of the ICELTee, the ICELT taker, the participant, right? That would be teachers, as I mentioned, with a minimum 500 hours teaching experience by the end of the course, or 100 hours if you're taking only the language for teachers. For the language for teachers, you can be less experienced, okay? But you would still need some experience. The profile of the candidate would mean that they are ready to delve into their own teaching and analyze what they're doing, open to feedback, right? It has to be someone who's in the classroom, not someone who will be starting teaching, okay? It is a practicing teacher. And the minimum around the world recommended by Cambridge is the B2 level of English, right? Someone mentioned that taking the Delta, I think it was Thiago, earlier on in his career, was not that profitable in a way, although it was positive. And again, I would recommend a little more knowledge of English to take the ICELT and actually take all the opportunities in writing the assignments or succeeding in progressing in the ICELT course, okay? What is the assessment like? You can be awarded a pass, a merit, or a distinction overall. For each of the three components, a pass, a merit, or a distinction, the combinations will lead you to an overall pass, merit, or distinction, okay? But there is a minimum 50% in each component to be awarded either a distinction or a merit, but you need to pass in all components to be awarded a certificate. Meaning, if you have a distinction in teaching, but you failed the language component, you cannot pass, okay? For each of the tasks mentioned earlier, there is specific task criteria that will be used by the tutor and you will have access to before writing your tasks, okay? And also the mark scheme for spoken and written language, then when they're observing language, right? Differences between the ICELT and other courses. It's either face-to-face or blended. It cannot be taken online, fully online, as other teaching awards. Not even the language for teachers. Then, because you do have input sessions that are considered face-to-face still. It's in service. It is usually a part-time course, because you will be teaching, so you cannot stop teaching and take the ICELT. It's not usually recommended, even though you can take input sessions full-time and then do the teaching, the assessed lessons throughout a term, okay? There is flexibility in the lessons when you're teaching the lessons, and flexibility of the program to suit the local needs, for example, or a group of teachers' needs. It demands teaching experience. Some others don't, and some others require a lot more experience. So not that many hours, right? But some experience is required. You can teach your own groups. It's not a must, because you can teach groups in the school you're taking the ICELT, but you usually take that with your own groups, where you can assess your own teaching with them, or your own practice among your groups, right? It is adapted and taught in your context. If you are lucky enough to have a center offering the ICELT, or near you, where you can actually adapt the program to your context. So right now we are opening for questions. I thank you all very much for participating. I left my email here, and we open for questions.
Marcela, could you go back to your email just so I can read it aloud?
Yes.
Or please, if you could read it aloud, because sometimes it's hard to see on YouTube.
It's marcela.cintra@hotmail.com.
Thank you very much. People are complimenting your talk here. It was very complete. And now for the questions.
You can see me now, right?
Yes, we can. Sorry, I had my mic off.
It's okay.
Karen had a question about where to take the ICELT in Brazil. Please.
Karen.
Yeah.
So in São Paulo, you can take it at Cultura Inglesa São Paulo, even though we are offering it and we take our teachers first, right? 7 also offers the ICELT. I know there is a place in the Northeast. It's not Salvador, but I don't quite remember. We can check it on Cambridge website. And the North as well. Brasilia, if I'm not mistaken, also offers the ICELT. So there are quite a few centers. CELTA as well offers the ICELT in São Paulo. There are not as many as the CELTA centers, okay? Because you're supposed to be teaching, and it's because it's adapted to our context. Not many centers choose to offer the ICELT. Thiago said Bahia, Minas, Pernambuco, São Paulo. Have you checked the website? Oh, thank you, Thiago. That's it. Perfect.
Yeah, the website for those who are on YouTube is cambridgeenglish.org/find-a-center/find-a-tt-center. It's hard to spell out, but basically just Google cambridgeenglish.org ICELT where to take, and you'll find the list there. We have more questions, and many compliments. One of them is Ricardo Barros would like to know if you recommend candidates doing the CELTA before trying the ICELT.
The CELTA, yes, definitely. It's not, again, teacher development or what courses you take, there is not a right path that would suit everyone, right? But depending on the experience you have, I would recommend you take the CELTA. It's a lot practical, and you're going to analyze the same groups with the other teachers, right? And then you move on to ICELT, where you look at your own groups, your own teaching, and go a bit deeper in that. Yes, Ricardo, I would recommend people take the CELTA and then move on to the ICELT, because although there is a minimum of 500 hours experience, many of the teachers taking the ICELT have a lot more experience than that. There are too many assignments. There is a lot of work, paperwork to be done, lessons to teach, and assignments to write throughout the semester with your own groups. So this whole management of your coursework and the reading you have to do is a lot more than the CELTA. So you could come after that, and the CELTA would prepare you with the lessons and shorter assignments.
Marcela, we have a question from Vinicius Tavares. He's asking if the minimum of hours of experience, 500, right, by the end of the course is a must, or is just recommended?
It is a must by the end of the course, right? There might be some flexibility, but I've never had to ask this question. It is a must, but again, the world is never black and white, right? But it is one of the requirements, not a recommendation, okay?
Thank you. Danilo Ribeiro, all the way from Russia, is asking how the overall component is marked. For example, if there is any module that is weighed differently and is worth more than the others.
Not usually, but teaching is always the main module, right? Teaching and methodology. So if you have a distinction in your language for teachers and a pass, the moderator that externally assesses the whole course might recommend you don't actually have a distinction for your overall. I mean, because teaching was not a distinction, and it's a course about teaching, right? What happens is you need to have at least 2 components with the merit or distinction to be awarded a merit or a distinction from the 3 components. So if you have a pass in your language for teachers, then a distinction in teaching, a distinction in methodology, you will be awarded distinction. But there are so many possible combinations, like a pass for language, distinction for teaching, and merit for methodology, that could also mean you are awarded distinction, because the combinations will be, again, like the CELTA, validated by Cambridge, the moderator, and then Cambridge, right? But usually what you need for distinction, merit, because the pass is very simple, you need a pass in all the components, right? For merit or a distinction, you need the last lesson for the teaching component awarded a merit or a distinction, and another one throughout the course. So you cannot fail the last lesson, and you cannot have a pass in your last lesson and be awarded a distinction for the component, even though you had other distinctions. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, the perfect sense. Thank you. There are more questions here. Eduardo de Freitas would like to know what tutors observe in ICELT that is different from what CELTA tutors look at.
It's different in a way that more is expected from you. The criteria are different for the ICELT. There is a step further there in the ICELT. So as I mentioned, there'll be criteria for the lessons that will range from the use of language, classroom management, or how your aims were achieved, what you did to achieve those aims, how you reflected upon your lesson. The reflection is also taken into consideration. And you have, just like the CELTA, preferably different tutors observing the 4 different lessons. Preferably, because if the center has only 1 tutor, Cambridge is okay with that. It could be that tutor, and then there'll be the moderator later on. But usually someone else observes your lesson. Does that make sense?
Sure. Sorry. Rachel Vardy is here with a question. Would you like to ask it yourself, Rachel? Okay.
Oh, I can hear. I can see her question here.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll read it aloud because
okay.
People on YouTube cannot see it. Would a person who holds the CELTA benefit more from taking the ICELT, or would it be better to go straight towards DELTA?
That's a very, very good question, and I'm sure Henrique will also tackle that, as Ricardo did earlier on, or Edu, and when Thiago asked a question. It depends. It always depends, right? It depends on how experienced the teacher is. I would usually recommend taking the ICELT in between to get ready, because the DELTA is another step, right? It's even further in our progress, professional progress there. So I would take the ICELT in between. That would teach me to organize or to look into literature and analyze my own teaching, evaluate learning as a whole before I move on to the DELTA, which is a new ball game there. So I would be more prepared for the DELTA later on, taking the ICELT before. That would be what I would usually recommend, although some people go straight to the DELTA, okay? But then they would profit a lot more had they taken the ICELT before. This is what we usually hear.
Thank you. That was the question of actually more than one person. And somebody else, Cynthia Rodriguez, has asked what the requirements are to become an ICELT tutor.
You need to have experience as a trainer. The DELTA is desirable, but not always a requirement, even though it's being changed recently, okay? Especially DELTA Module 2, okay? Not a requirement, but you need experience as a tutor, very good knowledge of the English language, experience teaching. You need to have tutor to train you as well, and then you would apply as an ICELT tutor. I remember I became an ICELT tutor just before I finished my DELTA. So that's why I know it's a recommendation, but not a requirement.
Okay, great. We have another question from Edu. If you could give one recommendation only to a new ICELT, what would you say?
Get organized. Definitely get organized. I mean, plan what time you're going to study, what time you're going to read, what time you're going to write, because you would usually be doing the course throughout the term. So you will be teaching your own groups, correcting writing tasks, correcting tests, planning your own lessons, the usual lessons, not only the assessed lessons. So get organized, definitely. Otherwise, things get in the way. If you don't meet the deadlines, remember professional development is being assessed as well. Not meeting the deadlines means you might not be able to teach all 4 lessons, and it would delay the whole process and might even mean you fail a lesson. So not recommended.
That's very good advice. Rachel had a question. She asked, would a person who holds a CELTA benefit more from taking the ICELT or the DELTA?
Oh, I talked about that one earlier, Edu. Yes, the ICELT is recommended, even though some people go straight to the DELTA.
Yeah, thank you. I think, are there any further questions?
No, I don't think there are more questions.
I hope everyone takes the ICELT.
You did make a very convincing case.
Yeah, we do have a lot of compliments, right, on the YouTube. People thanking you. It was amazing.
Thank you guys for listening on a Sunday, right? Sunny Sunday here.
A Sunday no less. Thank you very much for a lovely talk. Bruno, could you tell us about the certificate?
And so if you please would follow this link, bit.ly/Cambridge ICELT in capital letters, so that you can get your certificates for Marcela's talk. I'm gonna post it here on the chat box, okay? And please do it by today, right? Because the link will not be available after today.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Marcelo.
I'm gonna show the link here. Here, guys. Can you see the link?
Yes.
bit.ly/Cambridge ICELT, Cambridge in lower letters, ICELT in capital letters. And see you in the next talk. It'll be Henrique Moura on the DELTA. See you soon.
Thank you, guys.